Hello, and welcome to the Vicars Watch Dibley,
the podcast where three priests link our stories to those of the Reverend Geraldine Granger and other TV vicars. I'm Kate.
I'm Jenny.
And I'm Ruthie. In this episode, we're going to talk about the TV show that was the Coronation, because it was live on the telly.
I'm the TV vicar, which was the Archbishop of Canterbury.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about what happens in a coronation service, bits that we found particularly interesting, and just talk about what this odd thing is that we Brits do. Hi everyone!
Hello!
Hello! It's been a long time since I've seen you both.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, last time you recorded by yourselves because my small person had chickenpox, and you did a lovely job, and I loved listening to it, and we got loads of lovely feedback. So good job, Kate and Jenny.
We
Nice
missed
work.
you, but we did have fun. Both and.
Yeah.
Without
I know.
me.
And actually, we need your episode will complete the trinity of where have you come from, where will you go, what's your calling story, you lovely friends or foe. Oh, sorry, that was so bad, wasn't it?
Don't sound very
What
enthusiastic
fantastic
about it.
I was trying to
impromptu
make it
poetry.
right, but it was just painful.
Well, it's so lovely to see you both.
Woo!
As you said, it feels like it's been ages, but it's so much fun.
Yeah.
Such fun.
We've got a lot to catch up on as well with everything that's been happening in the world. But before we dive into that, let's have a think back through the last week. As ordained women living in this world, what have you been loving? I mean, it could be ordination, vicar, ministry related, or it could be something else. Ruthie, what have you been loving this week?
I feel like my things are always never particularly vicary things. But never mind, so I'm going to go with it.
Way!
Something fun happened this past week. So, because I'm a slightly mad woman, my dog has a voice. And when Maggie the dog wants to make opinions about things, she talks like this. This is Maggie's voice. And she will say things about wanting to go on the sofa. And what's really funny is that my toddler has picked up on the fact that there's a different voice for Maggie. And so now he uses it as well.
So cute.
So if we eat dinner and I tell Maggie, go settle outside, and Ben will go, no, someone settle. So that's been really funny and hilarious. And yeah, would recommend Small Humans for that.
That is
variety.
top bugs.
What I also love is that every time we have a chat about my dog, you always ask me whether Millie has a voice yet as well. You're trying to bring me into
Absolutely,
the fun.
getting on this level. I think Millie would have a much more refined voice than Maggie.
It would have to be quite, it would have to be high and very cute, I think. And very innocent. She's a very good girl.
My dog was just sat on the sofa opposite me, and she is now left in protest.
I've upset her. She's been offended.
Anyway, what's something you've loved, Kate, this week?
Keeping theme on dogs. So I've been walking my dog a lot around the countryside, and it has officially killed my welly boots.
Oh, that's a sad thing.
They have holes in yes, it starts off as sad. So I came home with wet socks one day after walking Millie. So I tried to be so good, and I mended my wellies. You know, I got this kit for mending wellies, repairing wellies. I did it, I dried, took her out for another long walk on Monday, came home with wet socks again. So it started out with dry socks, but the countryside was too demanding of a wellies. So I have, my mum said, because I had nice kind of what my mum would call town wellies, you know, kind of fashion wellies, spotty wellies. So my mum said, look, you need to get proper country wellies. So I've bitten the bullet and I've ordered what would be the most expensive pair of wellies in my life, except I got them at quite a good discount.
Hey!
Resale.
Oh, that is a good piece of news then.
So
and what colour are these wellies, Kate?
because they're on sale, I didn't have much choice. They are bright pink, which, to be honest, I was going to get the bright yellow ones, but bright pinks are nice. You know, I'm not against it.
Yeah. had to get
Yeah, just had to.
Had to get
Whatever.
bright pink wellies.
That's very
And I'm
cool.
just hoping that because this is a very nice brand of wellies, and I'm really hoping they actually survive and I haven't just wasted my money.
I'm sure
But
they'll
I
be
think
good.
actually with the sale prices, they're cheaper than some of the more affordable brands because of the sale.
Nice.
Wow. We'll look forward to your welly update.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Is,
Wellies are
Is
amazing.
Millie
I
still
love
wearing
wellies.
her boots?
No, Millie has not been wearing her wellies.
Oh.
She
Wear your
I
wellies
I
together.
tried taking her out in them, and I think she decided that she preferred to have wear paws than wear the boots. So you know what? It's taught her something.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Jenny, what have you loved this week?
Oh man, it's so good. Well, I'm gonna go from doglets to tiny humans again. The thing that I've been loving, so it is still the season of Easter at the moment. So when this episode comes out, we'll still be in the 5th week of Easter. So the thing that I've been loving is basically on Easter Sunday, all my family were meant to pile over for a big Easter lunch and an egg hunt in the vicarage garden. But half of my family were ill. They all came down with like chesty coughs and colds, and we just decided not to do the big thing anymore. So, Bank Holiday Monday just gone, everyone piled over, or like the majority piled over, those who could came over, and we did the egg hunt for my little nephew, who's about 1.5. And the thing that I've really been loving, and it's kept on repeating of me, is his little face when he saw the coloured eggs. So he's tiny, so he's not very good at hunting. He didn't know that there'd be like one and another. We had to sort of point them out. But I've got this gorgeous picture of him seeing the first egg, and it's like they're bright, they're kind of small. They're only like, I don't know, like 3 inches by 2 inches. They're small, but they're brightly coloured.
They're like egg
They're-
size.
But you can get massive ones though, can't you? Which I should have probably thought of because he's so small.
They're probably egg
Yeah, egg
size.
size. But then, what I should say is they're plastic eggs, and then you fill them. I filled them with either chocolate or like trivia questions, so that we could all do.
Aw.
But the thing that I loved was just watching him go around the garden, finding these eggs, like handing them to my sister, who's his mum, putting them in his little bag. Oh man, it was so cute. So I'm still loving Easter, and I'm still loving Easter egg hunts, and it was a great excuse to have a Cadbury's cream egg as well, like so much after Easter Sunday, which just felt like a privilege. So yeah, that's what I've been
That's
loving.
good. Do you know what I've seen online? People using those plastic eggs to do an egg hunt with their dogs. So you fill those
cute.
eggs with tasty smelling treats, and then the dogs can go around the garden and have their own particular egg
That's
hunt.
really cute. I was nervous that Henry would find them, but
Before anyone gets at us for talking Easter, we still have, on the date of recording, which is 10th of May, we still have 8 days of Easter.
yeah, it's a season, baby.
Yeah.
It's not a day, it's a season.
To get off our backs. But also excitingly, something that, well, Kate and I already loved, and Jenny has grown to
Indeed.
love this weekend, is Eurovision, baby.
Woo!
Oh, we.
Very exciting.
Blessed feast, the most blessed feast of Eurovision.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And by the time this comes out, Jenny, you will have done something very exciting with your church that both me and Kate are very
Yeah,
jealous of.
so a lot has changed in the last year in terms of my Eurovision knowledge and love and appreciation, as you mentioned there. Yeah, so someone in my church family, they have themselves, I think they went along to, or they had a friend that went along or was really heavily involved in a Eurovision Eucharist, where instead of the hymns, you sing and celebrate Eurovision items from bygone years. And so yeah, we're having a Eurovision Eucharist where the themes are all around like unity, oneness, like world music. And because of course the competition really should have been hosted in Ukraine this year, those who are Ukrainian who are living in our village at the moment, they're providing refreshments. So we've got that kind of real celebration of Ukraine, as well as kind of getting excited for the competition that's to come. Yeah. So as you're listening, we're releasing this on the Friday. It was last night, and we're getting ready for obviously Eurovision to come tomorrow.
And if you want to hear us talk more about Eurovision, last year we did a Eurovision themed episode in which we talked about the Father Ted episode Song for Europe. And at that point we speculated about whether or not we thought last year's entry Sam Ryder would win for the UK. He did a lot better than we were imagining. Not that the song was bad, just because of England's history in the Eurovision Song Contest. With Spaceman, the song,
really good. What a tune.
Won the judges' vote. But then obviously the ended up as runner-up, which is why we're now hosting kind of on behalf with and in conjunction with Ukraine this year.
Yeah, very cool.
Very exciting. Well done, Sam Ryder.
Well done. I love Sam Ryder. Man,
he seems like such a lovely
does.
chap.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're not here to talk about Eurovision.
We're not.
Because we've done that already. What are we talking about today, Kate?
My goodness, it has been, this the past couple of weeks in the UK, have been celebrations and big things. We had some local elections, we've got Eurovision, and crammed right in the middle was, just a small party we were throwing as a country. Nothing big, just this thing called a coronation.
Majestic.
It was an historic event. This weekend was the coronation of King Charles III. And today we wanted to talk a little bit about the things that we found interesting about the ceremony, what we've been doing as vicars in kind of church life, and just, have a bit of a chat about the coronation.
Yeah, and it's worth us noting that as part of our kind of ordination vows, so when we became deacons and priests, we as ministers in the Church of England swear allegiance to, at the time it was the Queen and all her successors. Charles is kind of our boss in some ways. So what we're not going to talk about particularly in this episode, but we do want to mention is we're not going to talk about whether we should have a monarchy or not, because actually, we have sworn allegiance, and therefore that's probably not a helpful thing for us to talk about. But we did think it was important to mention that there has been big questions about the coronation and all the things that have been going on. So there was a protest organised by an organisation called Republic, who don't want to have the monarchy, and there were some interesting arrests that happened as part of that, which we kind of talked about the new policies for protest in one of our previous Dibley episodes, and they were arrested under one of these new things. It was interesting. And there was also other questions about the amount of money spent on the coronation and with the cost of living crisis and all that kind of thing. There's also always the personal drama of the royal family that is in the public eye, which we're not going to get into either, because do you know what? Everyone has drama in their families, just some people are more unfortunate to have it very publicly. And within the institution, the Church of England, and within amongst clergy, there is a whole spectrum of opinion about the monarchy and that kind of thing. So we're not going to particularly delve into that, but we are going to talk about other things, like what did we do with all things that happened coronation this past weekend.
And you know what? I think the best place to start is quiche. So
thoughts on quiche? Yeah,
let's talk about quiche. I'm not the biggest fan of quiche.
Neither am I. Apart from my mother-in-law makes a very good quiche, but I'm not a big fan of quiche.
But for this coronation, the coronation of King Charles III, a special coronation quiche recipe was made and shared for us all to enjoy. At Queen Elizabeth II's coronation, there was coronation chicken, which still endures as a public favourite. I saw a coronation chicken sandwich in the shop the other day, and I thought, maybe I should buy that. I quite like coronation chicken.
Oh my gosh!
I didn't sample a coronation quiche this weekend, but I'm sure I will do at some point. It looked interesting. It looked like it had vegetables mixed.
I had no idea where I was, because I thought I was in the hubbub of things. I thought I knew what was going on. No idea about this coronation quiche whatsoever. And I'm gutted.
And the stuff that was happening on Monday.
What was happening on Monday?
Exactly.
Oh,
The
yeah!
thing that happened
But
on
let's
Monday
talk about that
afterwards.
in a
Okay,
second,
yeah.
because we
Oh,
were
yeah.
asked a question
Crazy.
on Twitter, because I asked through Twitter, what should we talk about? And someone said, coronation quiche, why not a coronation pudding?
I mean,
so
I'd be, well up for that.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
one of the backgrounds for why these coronation recipes are what they are, which is fairly staple foods, actually. The recipes are fairly simple to make, and the point is that they are simple to make, and that the ingredients are fairly easy to get a hold of, because the idea being that anyone in the country could make this recipe.
Not
What
a
about
cookie.
vegetarians, though, for the coronation chicken? Like, I feel personally offended about that.
Yeah, I mean that was a different time, wasn't it? The coronation chicken.
suppose.
There were less vegetarians in the public discourse,
Ah,
perhaps.
well, more to the pity.
But I believe the coronation quiche is vegetarian.
I wouldn't know. Haven't got a clue it even existed. And I'm
Yeah, and talking
I
of your obliviousness,
Yeah.
what was the thing that we were all encouraged to do on Monday?
Well, this is another thing. Apparently, we're all encouraged to go and help out and to do kind acts of service. Like the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, he was, I think, in a food bank and helping the homeless have food. I saw that Princess of Wales and William, the Prince of Wales, and their whole family, they were with scouts and volunteering. Everyone was doing stuff and being so generous with their time. And I felt awful because I finished the end of the day. I had a lovely day with my family, a big selfish day of fun. I've been at the park, my local park, on the swings, having a great time, just chillaxing. And then I found out we were all supposed to be serving and doing acts of kindness and goodness. And I was like, oh no, I've just had a big selfish day of relaxation. I mean, I'm not complaining, but I did feel bad. Did you guys do stuff?
Aren't you serving in a different
Serving
way?
myself, yeah. Serving myself.
No, serving your
Yeah.
family and your friends who you don't get to see all that.
That is
often.
how I tried to
And-
put it to myself, yeah. I did feel bad.
I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't really know about the volunteering thing
Yeah.
either, so I didn't go and particularly volunteer and do something.
One of my churches did a litter pick, or well, one of my villages did a
oh,
litter
that's
pick.
lovely.
I had something else to do, but they were doing.
What did you have to do?
That sounds dead suspicious,
Yeah.
Kate.
Well, I'm taking one of my primary schools on a pilgrimage to their local church on Ascension Day, and I had to test the route to make sure that it was child friendly.
That's nice.
And Monday morning was the only time that I'd be able to do it.
Oh, that's nice.
Aw.
That's definitely a good
Yes.
thing.
That sounds less sinister.
So less
than
sinister,
I
and
had things
I had
to do.
other things to do.
I tell you.
And I'm sorry to keep going back to this quiche, but I've just found a
Oh, man.
description.
It's making me
I
hungry.
just found a description of it, and it's just making me laugh. This is the description from the royal.uk special page for the coronation quiche.
It's got its own
A
page. Sorry.
deep quiche with a crisp, light pastry case and a delicate flavours of spinach, broad beans and fresh tarragon. Eat hot or cold with a green salad and boiled new potatoes. Perfect for a coronation big lunch.
Lovely. I mean, it sounds amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it to be honest, it does actually sound... I might maybe it'll change my mind about quiche.
Quiche
I love
convert.
quiche.
Quiche convert. I'm not the biggest fan of broad beans.
I've been way up for a pudding a lot more than a quiche. But I mean, it has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Coronation quiche.
Yeah. Mind you,
It
coronation cake sounds good as well.
Coronation cake.
There you go.
Coronation cobbler.
Ooh, yeah. Coronation chocolate. Actually, that doesn't sound as good.
Coronation cocktail.
Oh! You should put us in charge of
There
this.
you go, William. You can have that one for free.
Coronation cocktails. I probably would have like updates for that. Probably straight to the phone. The alert system would be on for coronation cocktails and their recipes. Anyway, no
So
offense to quiche.
talking of the coronation big lunch, did any of you go to a coronation big lunch or something like it? I popped in to a street party on the Sunday, which was a coronation big lunch at one of my villages, and also we had a coronation tea on the Monday afternoon, which was basically a big lunch as well. What about eating?
Well, we didn't really have. There were loads of things that we did in the run up. So in terms of like churchy stuff, like all of our prayers were directed towards the coronation and the run up. And I went to our residential home as well here in my village. And it was so lovely because some of the members of who we were sharing the service with could remember the Coronation of Elizabeth and watching it in black and white on a 9x9 TV screen. So we were like sharing those memories, which was lovely. But no, we didn't have a lunch as such. We did a vigil of prayer service on the Friday. So we lit candles and had prayers ahead of the coronation. On the Saturday itself, my village it was like a picnic, bring your own lunch in the square. So a road was closed and there was music and a hog roast from our local butchers. Oh, actually, no, it wasn't a hog roast, it was like burgers, I think. But the only sad thing is that it was really raining. So although that didn't really seem to stop the people in the village celebrating, absolutely rightly, it perhaps wasn't as quite, what was anticipated. So yeah, not really a big lunch as such. We didn't do any foodie things in church itself. We do have a bring and share lunch this coming Sunday, but yeah, it won't be especially coronation themed, I'm afraid.
Well, there were lots of things you said that churches were doing and villages, and we had a screening of a coronation on the Saturday. Which also included, I think we had also some bells ringing, and we also had, I was watching the coronation at home, but I'm told that there were also cannons which were fired at this church we were doing the screening at. And on the Sunday I did a hymns and hymns service.
Now that sounds amazing.
It was lovely. So we had a phantom singer snuck in right towards the end when we were singing Jerusalem, because suddenly there was a tenor joining in, sort of wonderful, bringing Jerusalem to life, and then disappeared. Just disappeared. No one knew who he was. So
was it Charles? I bet it was King Charles. He just popped in and he was like, I'm gonna.
I mean, we were told that the royal family would be attending various things across the country. Who knows whether some satellite royals snuck in just to sing and did those feats in ancient times. What else did we do? There was a barbecue. There was a fete. There was lots happening this weekend. My goodness.
Yeah.
How much of the stuff that you two went to was kind of church organised and how much was village and kind of community organised?
Most of it was community organised. The only thing 100% church organised was the hymns and hymns. The coronation tea on a Monday was jointly church and village organised. And the screening of Coronation at the church was church and village organised.
Yeah, for us, like everything that the church did. So all the services obviously are just church run, and I obviously attended them all and led them all. But the kind of bring your own picnic and have some fun on the square, which the village hosted, especially the local businesses, that was all them. Although, like UK, our bell ringers did an hour of ringing. I think it was an initiative for towers across the UK called Ring for the King, and they did an hour of bell ringing, which I just felt so proud of. And that kind of felt like a real nice connection between the church and the village itself. But yeah, I think everything was intermingled really. It was kind of, I suppose, separate in a way as well. We were going to do a screening, but we decided our pews were just so ruddy and comfortable that no one would come.
Yeah. Can I give my confession? Why I didn't go to my church screening of the coronation? I didn't want to sit in the church pews for 2 hours. And my initial plan was, I'll pop in and then I'll pop out. But I just thought that just didn't look right
for a coronation.
It's hard, it's like, I'm just gonna leave watching a coronation now. So instead, I watched it at home while texting you two.
Yeah, we had a running commentary going actually, didn't we? Which was helpful.
Yeah.
It was really good because I was also texting because I watched it from home as well. My kind of family WhatsApp on my dad's side, which is all my aunties and cousins. We have a little group there, and the messaging from these two different groups were very different. And so I was trying to. Right, which message am I replying to? Which group am I in? What tone does it need to be?
Yeah, but I mean, you were never going to confuse which group was asking, I wonder what the Eucharistic prayer is.
That's true, yes. There were less questions about that in the other group. More like, hasn't Camilla got a nice dress on? And what do we actually think about the monarchy?
What was it like for you, Ruthie? I was just going to say.
Yeah, my experience was quite different. So, walking around where I live in Rotherham, there's not been a lot of bunting up. There's not been any kind of things particularly organised that I've seen. The church that I mostly go to here didn't do anything. I think the other two churches did do something, but they're in the one that did a big thing is much more villagey. Whereas here, where I live in the kind of more city centre, not a lot going on. So I didn't really do much for the coronation at all, other than, I watched it, and I watched probably longer than I would have done, perhaps, because I knew that we were doing this episode, and therefore I was trying to text the other group, look at the order of service on the Church of England website, because it had loads of really useful crib notes and things like that, which maybe we'll put in the description if you want to get super nerdy about this. Go and have a look at that. And then was trying to watch it and make notes at the same time. So I was dedicated watching it. And then I got pinned in because my son fell asleep on one side and the dog fell asleep on the other side. So I was stuck in a sandwich. But yeah, it's not been a big thing here particularly, and I wonder if that's a bit of a city versus village. I don't know if there's a difference in class and kind of status where we are, and maybe that's affected why there wasn't really particularly much going on here.
I definitely know that for the village that did the most, they do monthly village barbecues anyway.
Oh wow!
So they are really used to getting everyone together to
monthly
do stuff.
barbecue.
Monthly, it's ramble and barbecue.
Oh wow!
So like that village has loads that they do together. And maybe villages are more used to organising community events in that way because there's nothing else to do.
Yeah. The thing is, if you
wear your fancy wellies.
Exactly, if you've got some really strong people who are well connected in your village or your small town or town, then you are really onto a winner. It's the people behind the organising and the preparation and getting the word out. Like, it takes a lot of time and effort. And there are so many people, I think, that go behind the scenes with like making these things run, you know, and just go smoothly. But man, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, and things like with smaller communities, it's just easier to get the word out about this stuff. So, you know, we have village Facebook groups, you know, where you can just put something out. There's a fete happening, there's a barbecue, there's whatever, and the information gets shared. It's a lot easier than when you're in a town or a city, I think. Well, at least my experience is you're less likely to have those sort of communication systems in place.
Yeah.
Should we talk about the actual service then?
Yeah, we've been dancing around it, saying we talked about it when we were watching it and we were making notes.
So we know we've got some international listeners who will probably, if you saw any clips of this, thought, that's really weird. Why are they doing all this kind of thing? So the coronation service itself is an Anglican, a Church of England service. And because of that, there's certain rules with it. And it is a really ancient, like 1,000 years old kind of service and plan. And there's certain elements and imagery that's really important as part of it. So what we thought we'd do for this bit is, as opposed to going through the whole service, because we think that would probably be quite dull for both us and you listening, we just pick out some bits that particularly struck us that we wanted to talk about. So, Kate, you're going to kick us off.
Yeah, so I think we need to start with what is a coronation, because King Charles was king from the moment that Queen Elizabeth passed away.
Yeah.
He was king immediately. So what is this ceremony actually doing, giving him the crown? I want to make the suggestion of the argument based on my observations of the service itself, where it felt like an ordination service. It felt like there was something about him being stripped of his worldly trappings, and quite literally he was stripped down to some plain clothing.
Okay, right.
Yeah, the king got naked. We didn't see that.
That was on the screen as well.
And he was anointed in private. We'll talk about the anointing in a moment. Yeah. And then he was vestured. He had then things then given back to him, and just the imagery for me felt very much like an ordination. He was given a robe, which is a priestly robe, and he was given a stole, which is a type of scarf, which clergy wear.
I missed that.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
The one that was handmade, that was made for him. Sorry,
the Royal College of Needlework.
Yes, amazing,
stunning.
And he was before all of this, he was presented with a Bible, and I want to read the words with which the Bible was presented, because I thought they were just incredible. This was presented by the moderator of the General Assembly of the Church of Scotland. Sir, to keep you ever mindful of the law and the gospel of God as a rule for the whole life and government of Christian princes, receive this book, the most valuable thing that this world affords. Here is wisdom. This is the royal law. These are the lively oracles of God. And for me, this really sums up that despite all of the trappings of finery and treasures, the most valuable thing given to the king is this obedience to God.
Yeah, I love that. There was a tweet on the Coronation Day by Bishop Ruth. I think she's bishop in Chichester, and she tweeted that a picture of that part of the coronation service with the words, "Today the king will be given the crown jewels worth something like £5 billion. But first, he's given the Bible, the most valuable thing this world affords." Isn't that amazing? Yeah. That sums up everything about this service, I think.
So then after the king made his oath, he then actually prayed as well. He knelt in front of the altar and gave a very moving prayer, which was specially composed for him. And I believe is for the first time in our history that such a personal prayer has been voiced so publicly by the sovereign. That's reading it from the annotated order of service. But again, the prayer is so powerful, and I actually used it to conclude my sermon on the Sunday after the coronation, and I'm going to read it again. God of compassion and mercy, whose Son was sent not to be served but to serve, give grace that I may find in thy service perfect freedom, and in that freedom knowledge of thy truth. Grant that I may be a blessing to all thy children of every faith and conviction, that together we may discover the ways of gentleness and be led into the paths of peace. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. I love that prayer. I'm going to use that so much because it's beautiful.
Yeah.
That really resonates with the hymn as well, doesn't it? Those last two lines are almost word for word. I vow to thee, my country. All her ways are gentleness, and all her paths are peace.
Look at you with your knowledge of I vow. I think that's right, actually. I think I've read something
just
about
came
that.
into my heart. Yeah, which would be very coronation-y, wouldn't it?
It's like they've thought about this.
Yeah, I love it when you get those connections. Like, yeah, maybe I'm not sure. It probably was intentional, but I'm not sure. Who knows?
Well, I mean, it was composed for him. Oh, actually, yes, it says in the annotated order of service, this prayer continues to reflect the theme of loving service. It's inspired by biblical language, Galatians 5, and also the language of the much-loved hymn.
Oh my goodness! Well, there you go.
Itself inspired by the words from the Bible, Proverbs 3:17. There we go.
There you go.
So, and I mentioned this, it sort of felt almost like an ordination, not as a priest, but it ties in with the Old Testament understanding of kingship, which is almost priest-king. And I was reflecting on, as we have this religious ceremony to crown our king, whatever we believe about the chosen ruler, whatever you think about the sense of the anointed kingship, or queenship or monarchy, what we are saying is that that the power is coming from God, and the authority is coming not from some inherent nature of the human being, but is invested by God, which, you know, when we get ordained as deacons and as priests, or if someone gets consecrated as bishop, it is a sharing of God's power, a gifting of God's power and authority. Anyway, so that's something I've been reflecting on, is the sort of a kind of an additional type of ordination.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And one of the key things that happens in ordination is that you get anointed, and that is something that happens in this service too. And it was the thing that particularly struck me in this service, that I found one of the most powerful moments, is the anointing. So we've already talked about the king being stripped down to just his nightshirt and his trousers, and all the kind of big fancy stuff is taken off. Although I imagine the shirt and trousers are pretty good quality if you're the king. It's not like he's gone now on H&M and just got a nice pair of trousers from there. But and at that point a screen came round so that we could not watch the anointing of oil that takes place, where the Archbishop of Canterbury anoints with oil the hands of the monarch, the chest, the breast of the monarch, and the head. And I found that just a really profoundly moving moment, because as this kind of really deep, intimate moment's happening, and it's supposed to be this moment that the monarch is just able to speak to God and just go, God, I need your help with this, basically. Like, I'm being anointed for this task and I can't do it without you. At the same time, the piece of music that was playing was the piece of music that we have had stuck in our heads ever since the coronation, which is ZAAAAAAADOK the Priest.
How can you say it without singing it?
Because I know I will not sing it as well as you do.
What? No, I just scream it for joy.
What's the thing that when we got ordained, there was lots of talk about whether there's a change that happens when you get ordained.
Ontological change.
Yeah.
Ontological change. Do we think that there is? For me, I was reflecting as I was watching this and thinking about whatever you think about Charles as a person, of drama, of a public stories from the past. Do we think that there may be some sort of an opportunity for ontological change in this anointing?
Yeah.
There's got to be. Yeah. There's. I mean, it looks like the most beautiful and holy moment, and I did some watching with some other coronation stuff, and I'll come back to this later, but there's this just really profound quietness and stillness, and what I really love was the contrast of this massive anthem that is being sung, and it's just it was really moving and powerful, and like the church was just full of this music, and yet this very small intimate moments happening with the Archbishop, and I think the Archbishop of York's there holding stuff as well, but it's supposed to be just a time for the king to be on his own with God and focus in, and a moment away from the kind of public eye to go right, and that definitely could be a point for change.
And I think we had that again at communion as well, where it's almost like the attention of the congregation and of the cameras was deliberately shifted when it came for the anointing. I feel like that beautiful anthem was in a way a distraction for us, so it could be a private moment for the king. And when it came to communion as well, and this was a powerful thing for me, that one of the first things that the newly crowned king does is have communion, was for me is a great show of humility to the King of Kings. Again, that was felt like quite a private moment that we didn't really.
We didn't see that.
We weren't encouraged to see.
Yeah. Yeah, and a very important moment in history, because 2 women bishops took communion at the same time.
That was really cool to see.
Up the women!
Woo!
Suddenly there were lots of women involved in this service.
Well, because I believe that they, Bishop Gully and Bishop Rose, they were the ones who actually distributed the communion to the king and queen as well.
Oh, did they?
That's my understanding, because someone was asking me why did they receive.
Oh, yeah.
And I believe it's because they
Distributed.
Interesting.
it.
Wow.
We were talking, weren't we, in the chat, like, why isn't everyone getting communion?
Yeah.
And then we kind of came to the conclusion
It
of
would
that would
take
take a
hours.
very long time.
I didn't. Yeah.
And there's a whole variety of people there, representatives from different faiths and things like that, which probably would not have been appropriate to have it as a communion service. What about you, Jenny? I think you were keen on something that was a kind of theme for the whole service.
Yeah, so I think, well, for the service, I think also for like the weekend, I feel like, and actually even in the run up to, the theme of servant-hearted, servanthood just felt like the big flashing kind of item really of the coronation for me. Maybe that's just my take on things. In the run-up to the coronation, I did enjoy looking through the liturgy, and it was kind of a theme of the talks that I had with parishioners before we watched it, was on this theme. And I found it really moving and important about how the king's very first words are, "In his name and after his example I come, not to be served, but to serve." And I feel like that was really important. It was obviously reflected in the personal prayer. But I thought, and I know I'm supposed to be a massive fan, but I thought Justin Welby's sermon was fantastic. I had a friend that timed it, said it was 5 minutes 09 exactly, which I thought was interesting. And I thought it was really inclusive and honouring, not only to the king, but also to all of the people in Westminster Abbey, and probably all of the people watching, in terms of talking about being servant-hearted and all the things that have done. He said, "Service is love in action. We see active love in our care for the most vulnerable, in the way we nurture and encourage the young, in the conservation of the natural world." And he even then went on to say, "We have seen those priorities in the life of duty lived by our king." I thought there was something really special about Justin honouring Charles, and actually like his life, his service, his ministry, if you will, up until this point. But he also went on to talk about, you know, people in the armed forces, emergency services, like all the different people that were there representing charities and organisations. I just thought it was wonderful. And again, just talked into the servant-hearted nature of all the people that were there. So I think that was, that did feel like a bit of a theme. And the way that he linked that to echoing, you know, Jesus, the servant king, just thought was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, there was a really strong Christian message in this sermon.
Definitely.
And he could have gone very lightly. Being a civic occasion, he could have gone with a very gentle touch, but he didn't. And actually, he pushed very hard with this sense of servanthood to Christ shared together. And the centre point of the sermon, it felt to me, was when he said, his throne was a cross. Yeah. His crown was thorns. His regalia were the wounds in his body. And that for me felt like the centre point. And then he went on to talk about how we are all called in service. And we're all called through following Christ in service of the people around us. And I then used this, I actually picked up on that in my sermon the next day, talking about how not all of us are called to be king, but we are all called to serve the King of Kings. Little taster from my sermon.
Mine was similar along those lines. Can we just have a moment of appreciation then for Justin Welby?
Yeah.
Goodness me, being Archbishop of Canterbury is a massive, massive job. And he's done the big ones, hasn't he? I mean, he's done a few royal weddings. He's done... Well, he was involved. He didn't do as much for the funeral of the Queen, and then doing a coronation, and just the pressure that must be on him to you know, not fluff up your lines at that point. And Although I think he did a little bit.
Yeah, there was a moment.
Was nice.
There was a moment. It was right at the end with the blessing. I think he stumbled over the words,
so satisfying.
Which was so
He's
lovely
human
to see.
too.
And didn't we also note that right at the beginning when he did the greeting, was it Hallelujah, Christ is risen, and he just was quite an aggressive Hallelujah, Christ is risen, and I loved it.
But the moment that he declared it, like it all happened, and he shouted, "God save the King," was just like boom. So, well played, Justin.
Yeah.
I've hinted already about the tune that is ZAAAAAAAADOK the Priest.
That wasn't even the right tune.
I
sorry.
did that just for you,
I
Jenny.
am so
really sore
grateful.
throat.
Honestly, the joy in my eyes just lit up.
That's an absolute banger. And there were lots of beautiful bits of music in it. And the other bit that really struck me, and it ties in a lot with the stuff that you've said already, Kate, about ordination, because a song that is always sung at ordinations is called Veni Creator, which is Come Holy Ghost, Our Souls Inspire. And I really love this version of it because you may not know, but actually we have quite a few languages here in good old UK, Great Britain. And so the first verse was in English, the second verse was in Welsh, the third one was in Scots Gaelic, and the fourth one was in Irish Gaelic. And I really love that kind of coming together of all these different nations and singing this song in all these different languages. And there were quite a few different languages. There's quite a lot of Welsh in there, and I thought that was really great. And the music was just fantastic and amazing. But as my lovely mum, who is one of our biggest fans, pointed out on Twitter when we asked her for questions, she asked, is it possible to have too many choral pieces? And is it possible to have too much in Latin? To which, mum, the answer is yes, to both of those things. I always love a good sing-song. So when I'm not joining in with ZAAAAAADOK the Priest, I think there was only one hymn, wasn't there?
No, there were more hymns than that, because there was Praise My Soul, the King of Heaven. I think Christ. Let me just flip through. I think it was Christ is a sure foundation, but let's have a look. Because I was just having a look to see what the hymns were again.
There weren't many that people joined in. The choir sung a lot,
yeah.
and there were some fantastic musicians who were part of it.
Yeah,
as well,
hats off to the choir,
amazing.
by the way, who sing in all those different languages, and like you say, to all the musicians and the people behind that, because.
And female choristers for the first time at Coronation, which, but it's so lovely that it was unremarkable.
Yeah, that's so true.
So there was Veni Creator, which was sung more as an anthem rather than as a hymn. We definitely finished with Praise My Soul, the King of Heaven.
Yeah,
that's what I think. I think there was only like one, maybe two to sing along.
There was
to.
one.
Not that it's karaoke, but
there was one after the coronation of Camilla. Christ is made of a straw foundation was the offertory.
Okay.
And lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of anthems.
Yeah, which is very lovely and very beautiful. But it's different, isn't it, with that? I think I prefer in more normal worship circumstances for it to be more participatory than listening. Personally,
I think you need the balance. I think having some services. I mean, I'm currently organising a choral evensong for Pentecost. I managed to get a choir to come out from Hereford to come to one of my churches. And they'll be singing a lot. There will be hymns, but they'll also be singing quite a lot of the service.
Nice.
It's
shout out
occasions.
to Hereford as well. Bishop of Hereford.
Yeah, so Bishop of Hereford was one of the bishop attendants. So the King's bishop attendants are always the Bishop of Durham and the Bishop of Bath and Wells. Is that because...
really?
So I know Durham is a prince bishop. Is Bath and Wells also a prince bishop? Who knows?
I don't know.
But I don't know whether the same is for the Queen, whether they're always certain
princess
ones,
bishops,
or whether they're always certain bishops. Did I ever tell? I'm sure I must have told you my joke back when we were training, and I think I used to joke that everyone's talking about wanting to get this was back when Harry was single and there was still speculation about there was a way to become a princess by getting married into a royal family. And I think I said I'd sooner become a Bishop of Durham because then I'd be a princess bishop.
Absolutely. Yeah. The only office of bishop that I would say yes to.
Yes, precisely the only office of bishop to say yes to, because then you'd be a princess.
I would demand a tiara.
Well, you'd get a pointy hat.
And you get a big ring as well, wouldn't you? And a big cross necklace.
Yeah.
Bling bling.
And, a staff, sort of.
Yeah.
You get a sceptre, sort of, except, shepherd's crook.
Poignant.
Poignant.
And there are a few other things that we enjoyed, because it's very shallow of me, but I wanted to talk about the fashion for a moment, because Penny Mordaunt absolutely killed it in that outfit, carrying that massive sword and stood up for all that time, which was amazing. And I also loved that Princess Catherine and Princess Charlotte had matching outfits and tiaras, and that was adorable.
They weren't tiaras. That was a very key point. They were fabric.
Oh.
Because
were they made of fabric?
Tiaras were not allowed.
I thought it was metal.
No, they were. Let's not get into that's some of her family's politics and drama. But no, it was beautiful. I really liked. I saw a picture of Charlotte and Louis, and the caption was "A New Hope." Because
Luke and Leia.
Because they looked like Luke and Leia. I loved that.
That was cool. Yeah. Yeah. So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
What else did I really, really like? Oh, the pages did so well. Bless them. All the kids. Little Louis disappearing mid service. Bless him.
Yeah,
we
got to Coronation Crash.
Coronation
on Twitter.
Coronation Messy Church. Coronation Godly Play. We don't know what was happening, but I'm sure he had lots of time. I'm sure he had a good time. I saw someone trying to do lip reading because in the carriage procession, afterwards he was shouting, and someone on TikTok did some lip reading, and
bad lip reading.
He was saying, "What are you cheering at?"
Oh, Louis is a character. He's going to be...
The one thing that we haven't yet touched on, which we probably need to, because our listeners will be outraged, is if we don't talk about the kiss. Because that was a really moving moment in the ceremony when William pledges his allegiance and then kisses his... Reading, you're like, hold on, what? And there was something that William did for Charles. Did he hand him something when they were closer to the high altar? And I noticed that they didn't really share any eye contact, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then someone that I was sat with said it's probably because it's so moving for them. Like, it's so intense that you don't want to, really eyeball your, dad or your son and, make it really meaningful, because they're probably doing everything they can to hold it together. But I thought the kiss was just a really lovely moment of, I don't know, that kind of family, their loyalty and service.
It was after William, as Prince of Wales, pledged his allegiance to Charles, and he followed it with a kiss on the cheek.
Yeah.
And then it was the moment where you saw the professionalism just drop a moment for the family.
Yeah.
You just saw that emotion. And I'm told it echoed at Queen Elizabeth's coronation. Philip kissed her cheek.
That's really...
Just one of those moments when we're reminded that they are real people.
Yeah. God, it's so hard, isn't it? Bless them. Yeah. I think that's why it was so important to me, because whatever you do believe about the monarchy, whatever you believe, looking at their faces on that day, just think what a weight it is to bear. And I don't think anyone would choose to be in that position. I could be wrong. Maybe it's just that I'd be terrified and angry. But what a huge weight to bear. So yeah, I think it's a good thing to pray for, not just in the run up, but all of the service of the monarch as well. Yeah.
And that leads nicely on to that being a heavy theme in some of the Coronation TV /film things that I watched
What have you been watching then?
Which might be things. Well, so I watched the episode of The Crown that talked about Queen Elizabeth's coronation. I watched the Young Victoria, which has got Emily Blunt in it.
Oh yes, that's a really good. Yeah.
And because I just watched it anyway, Queen Charlotte, which is part of the Bridgerton stuff.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd briefly mention those things.
And I just remembered that I'd said before we were recording, oh no, I didn't watch anything else. Actually, I did. I tried to watch some of the Windsor's Coronation special, which is a Channel 4 irreverent take on the royal family. I am surprised that they get away with the caricatures they do. But then I also watched a bit of The Royals, which was another, it's also on 4, I think produced by the E Network, which has Liz Hurley in it.
Oh, yeah.
And again, it's supposed to be kind of a modern take on the royal family. I didn't get very far, as I said. I just found it a bit too... I just couldn't. It just felt a bit too... Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but I think I've seen like a tiny video on like Facebook or something. But yeah, jars bit would be.
So the Crown is the one that kind of has the most of the coronation service in it. And I didn't watch the full episode. I watched kind of clips. It was interesting actually, because one of the things that was a big topic of discussion was Prince Philip. And we have to say all of this is kind of fictional and assumed and guessed and it's not necessarily 100% historically accurate. But Prince Philip helps to organise the coronation and he's really keen to put it on the television. And apparently other royals are not. But he's also really keen that he does not kneel in the TV series because he does not kneel to his wife. And yet he's called, this is his monarch and he needs to kneel to his monarch. And so they strike this bargain of... needing to kneel. He agrees to kneel and she agrees to it being on the telly. But one of the things that they're talking about as well is that how much money is being spent on it. And there were parallels to today because Prince Philip says about, people are still on rations. That you need to spend less money on this. And actually by having it televised, people feel more part of it and all this kind of different stuff that was going on. I was like, the same old things come up. And there's a whole big discussion about, the weight of the crown that she has to bear, the literal weight as well as the kind of metaphorical weight of it too. And the bit with the anointing was really interesting because they showed that on the Crown TV series and the Archbishop's a bit bumbling and all this kind of thing. And she's covered too, but she's only got a canopy. So actually people could see what was happening. And it hasn't got sides like it did for the most recent coronation. We had ZAAAAAAADOK the priest again. What a banger. And the anointing with oil and the kind of avoiding eye contact and all this kind of stuff happened. And the actress Claire Foy was really good at kind of showing the weight and the emotion without kind of necessarily saying things. And just her looks and her, seeing that this is a big deal. Was really awesome. And Prince Philip kissed her on the cheek, which was very nice as well.
Wow.
Have you two watched The Crown?
Yes.
Yeah, part of it, but I haven't watched the most recent stuff. I would like to. I do quite enjoy it. I also feel like it actually brings like history alive, which I desperately need. Like I always regret never doing history GCSE. I don't know anything about kings and queens and the monarchy and the monarchy, I suppose. So yeah, it does help me to work out who's who.
Horrible histories. Check out horrible
history. I should really. I should just binge watch horrible histories.
They updated their Kings and Queens song to include Charles.
Did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
That's cool.
And then I watched the Young Victoria, which has got Emily Blunt in it, who is just fantastic. And they don't have as much of the coronation, and they kind of. They don't have it in one big section. They kind of have a bit at the beginning and then a bit later on. And they talk a lot about the weight of the crown and what to do as part of it. And they talk a lot more about the coronation chair. And what I love about the coronation chair is that it's got graffiti all over it.
What's this? Is there a story about the coronation chair? How has it come to be?
It is ancient chair. How old is it? I'm not sure.
And how did they get away with scribbling on it then? It must have taken them ages.
Bored choir boys.
Have you never been in cathedral choir stalls and inspected all the graffiti?
Probably not close enough.
Gary was here.
Yeah, no, seriously. Any cathedral, check out the choir stalls. There will be graffiti.
That's so funny. So funny that chair has not been exempt from cheeky choir probably boys.
Yeah. Yeah, and it had lots of the elements as well that we had in the actual coronation. ZAAAAAAADOK the priest showed a bit of the anointing, had the Prime Minister stood there with a massive sword and holding the scepters and all this kind of stuff as part of it too. And it seems that ZAAAAAADOK the priest is just a bit of a theme that it appears in all of these different bits. And it's interesting. They do get quite a lot of the elements right. And final fun fact about young Victoria, it's got an actual princess in it. Did you know that?
No.
So the princess that's in it, Camilla had her attendants, didn't she? Who helped kind of hold her cloak and stuff like that. Princess Beatrice is one of those attendants in the film.
Oh,
so you see her on screen holding onto the Queen's robe.
Wow.
Princess Beatrice, for those of you who don't know, is one of the daughters of the Duke of York.
And then the final one I watched... Well, I'd watched Queen Charlotte anyway and pretty much binge watched it immediately.
You love the Bridgerton stuff, don't you? You got me on to the first load of it. Yeah.
Oh, it's fabulous. And it's really moving. Like, Bridgerton, I will admit, bits of it are quite trashy and it is a bit raunchy. And you watch it for the fashion and the romance and the raunchiness. Queen Charlotte has really poignant bits about it and was really emotional towards the end of it. It was really, really beautiful. And you see the coronation only very briefly. You've got the crown, you've got the scepters. They're in the middle of an argument when the coronation happens and they're just pretending that everything's hunky-dory. No ZAAAAAADOK the priest.
Oh. So there's got to be at least maximum of 4 out of 10 if there's no ZAAAAAADOK the priest when it comes to a television coronation, I'm afraid.
But thinking of Charlotte, here's some coronation goss if you don't know this piece of history. Her and George's son, George, at his coronation, barred his estranged wife. Was not allowed. She was not allowed to enter the cathedral, and she tried. But she was not allowed.
Really?
Yeah, so she and George did not get on at all, and she was refused entry. She banged on the doors and said, "Open up, it's the Queen!" And she wasn't allowed in.
Scandal and sorrow.
Yeah.
You're so pastoral, Jenny. I love it.
Oh.
I think scandal and sorrow is a great way of describing the Regency period.
Maybe I will end up writing a historical book. You never know. I'll look into it all and cry.
What, like a raunchy bodice ripper?
Absolutely not.
I'd love to read a raunchy book by Jenny.
I don't even know. I couldn't even begin to. Oh man, this is not the sort of podcast where you share those kind of ideas, is it? Or you brainstorm how you might begin that novel.
Talking about brainstorming though, and keeping on the theme of TV, one of the things we were also asked was what we think a Dibley coronation would be like. I've got some ideas. I don't know about you. But so my thought was the way we would get a Dibley coronation episode is David Horton would, of course, be on the guest list. And I would think he would take, for whatever reason, he's going to take Geraldine as his +1. Because she really wants to go, I think, maybe. And this is a point in the series where he's warmed up to her. So he takes her. But then the kind of B plot is going to be everyone else in Dibley either trying to get in or they're doing catering or something, and the Archbishop ends up with food poisoning or gets trapped in a loo or stuck in traffic or something. And maybe all the other, like the Dean of the Cathedral, like all of these other clergy get incapacitated. And so they asked at the cathedral, are there any clergy in the building?
Oh my goodness, that's such a great idea.
And then Geraldine has to end up doing a coronation. That's how I think it would be done. I think Archbishop Geraldine, I think we saw with the women bishops mini episode for comic relief. Geraldine is quite happy in Dibley, and I don't think we'll ever see Archbishop Geraldine in the TV.
That would be
in
a
the
bad
TV
idea.
world.
Mm.
What about you? What would you want to see in a Dibley coronation episode?
Well, if they didn't go to the coronation because, David was really stubborn and... I've just thought. David was really stubborn and he was like, I'm going and no one else is coming with me. If they had a big celebration, they had a big picnic and, did all the things, and they did the ring along, and they did the ring for the king, and something amusing happens to Frank and Jim, who gets stuck.
Someone would end flying up and hitting a roof because they couldn't ring bells properly.
Yeah. Jim and Frank would get stuck up there and ring for 5 hours because they lost track of time or something like that. And they have a really good go, and actually towards the end of the episode, David turns up because he realises his place is here.
Oh, that's lovely.
At the coronation or something like that.
Oh man,
I just want to see Alice dressed as a queen.
Yeah,
that would be fabulous. If it was this coronation, full Camilla outfit, that would be fantastic.
And I think Letitia would have a go at the coronation quiche.
She definitely would.
And make some adjustments.
To it. Or she'd present a perfect coronation quiche, and that would surprise everyone.
Yeah, that'd be great. What would Owen's role be in all of this?
See, I thought he'd be the method by which the Archbishop of Canterbury gets food poisoning. He seems like someone who maybe doesn't always wash his hands before cooking.
Or I can imagine him rounding up all the clergy into a van and taking them to the green room or something like that, and it actually ends up just Geraldine being there. And he does it deliberately to get her to do it.
Yeah, I can see the Dibley lot trying to get maybe Geraldine started by the episode of saying, "Oh, there's been a national lottery of clergy to be involved in the service. I really want to be part of the service. I don't care what
Get me in there,
but wouldn't it be amazing?"
Yeah.
And she doesn't get chosen, but then the Dibleyites
sneak her
conspire to make it possible.
Yeah,
so good.
Sneaky.
What else? I think if it was an at-home Dibley episode, meaning kind of in Dibley rather than at Westminster Abbey, I think we'd want to see the dressing up competitions, to look at the Queen.
Hugo would be a corgi.
Hugo would be a corgi.
Cute.
Someone would dress up like Freddie Mercury. I feel like
yes, probably Jim
or Frank. What else?
I think Geraldine would give a cracking sermon on servanthood.
Yeah, I think she would.
Yeah,
and about being a servant and Jesus being the ultimate servant king.
Yeah, I'd love that sermon.
But there
we go.
I like the high drinks of someone getting stuck up a bell tower during a ring for the king. And if there was a firing of cannons, maybe one of them hits Horton Manor or something.
Yeah, or Owen puts sheep in it or something like that, and the sheep get fired. So Richard Curtis, if you're listening, we're willing to collaborate with you and be writers for any of the future Vicar of Dibley episodes, because we're geniuses.
I have to say,
I just had another idea. The village decides to crown a king for the day, or queen for the day, and it ends up being either kind of really
a
cute,
duck.
one of short, but like a duck, or like one of Owen's sheep or something.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Man, you two are so creative. I feel like if Richard Curtis does take you up on your creative genius, I'll come with you, but I'll get the coffees. You guys do the stuff, and I'll just keep you caffeinated.
Such an important job.
It is.
That would be great.
I'll be the servant among you.
Aww.
You're so creative. I can't think of one idea that I would do for a Dibley coronation episode, but I'm pleased that you've both got that.
I'm sure you can.
No, I can't.
Go on, Jenny.
Well, the only thing I thought about is what if Geraldine rode a horse? That's literally what I came up with.
Great. I love it.
I love it. The horses were amazing.
They were. The military, what was it, 4,000? Was it 4,000 people? I think it's 4,000 military people were part of the procession for the king and did the salute at the end, which is amazing, really. So maybe Geraldine could be one of them, and her horse could, I don't know, trot away or something.
Yeah,
rubbish.
She could pull the carriage.
Okay, yeah,
They
you're
could
making
make
it better. You're making it
another
better.
golden carriage.
Okay. And she could go and take them around Dibley. I'll leave the creative stuff to you guys, but yeah.
Or would
I
we
love
have
it.
a reenacting of there's that Johnny English scene which has been going about where Johnny English accidentally gets crowned king?
Yeah.
Or does someone accidentally get crowned king?
Or like Jerry and Camilla,
That's a great swap.
you know, swap round accidentally.
Or she gets mistaken for him. Yeah. I'd like that.
I'm terribly sorry. No. Maybe. That'd be great.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
What a fine episode.
So in this episode, we've talked over lots of things and what the coronation's meant and what's been involved with it, and we'll post a link in the description to this episode as to the kind of order of service that was given, because it's got lots of extra notes. So if you are interested to know what kind of all the different symbols are and that kind of thing, go and have a look at that and see what it's about.
So we hope that you've enjoyed our own reflections as we've discussed for Coronation. We hope that maybe it's got you thinking a little bit more about what happened this weekend. If you have any further things that you'd like us to talk about in the weeks to come, do please let us know.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Vicars Watch Dibley. Thank you to Toby for editing our ramblings.
Any views expressed in this podcast are our own and don't necessarily represent those of the Church of England or any other organisations with which we are affiliated.
And as always, bless you for listening.
So we talked about Coronation quiche and then the original Coronation chicken. So in honour of that, I have a chicken-based joke for you. You ready? What kind of trainers do chickens wear?
Chick trainers.
Reebok, bok, bok.
That's
Great.
great.
I knew you'd love that, Jenny.
I haven't heard that one and I do really like it. Bok, bok,